everybody, it's Mike Johnson back in the audio section of PWInsiderElite.com. It is Wednesday, December 30th, 2015, and we are just a week or so away from TNA debuting on Pop on Tuesday night, January 5th, 2016, and one of the major attractions that are going to go down that night in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania at the Sands Casino will be the semifinals and the finals, finally, of the TNA World Title Series. We are on the line with the man who really caused this entire mess by winning the TNA Championship to begin with at Bound for Glory and then vacating it within the confines of the TNA weekly storylines when EC3 went to court. And that, of course, is Matt Hardy, who this past October got to be the singles world champion for the first time, but really didn't get a long time to hold it. So, Matt, first of all, Happy New Year. How are you?
Happy New Year to you, Mike. I am doing great, and I gotta be honest. That moment was so special to me. It was in North Carolina, as you know, right outside of Charlotte. My beautiful wife was there. My newborn son was there. My dad was there. My family, my friends, and just to have that moment in my home state, 100 miles from where I live, was amazing. And unfortunately, just due to kind of the state of where things were at, EC3 got this injunction and forced me to relinquish the title, more or less, and then it led to the whole World Title Series, and that's been the last few months of TV, and it's coming to a culmination on Pop TV, and I'm excited. I want to regain what I feel like I never truly lost, which is the TNA World Heavyweight title.
How important was it to you to kind of have that personal checklist moment where you get to win the World Championship, and I mean, you couldn't have asked for a better place for it to happen. Your dad's there, your son's there, your wife is there, Jeff is there. Jeff's involved in the match. It's in North Carolina, where it's not even like you have history there. That's your home. You could drive home after the show. How important was that moment for you, and where does it stand on the just the Matt Hardy memory list?
It's very high. People have asked me that question a lot, and it's definitely. I mean, I would say it's in top 5. And so, some people may go, "Oh, really? You've done a lot of cool stuff." But I mean, for me, that was a pretty special deal. Especially as a singles, it kind of really validates me as being successful as a singles wrestler. I've done other things, and sure, I've been the European champion or U.S. champion or the ECW champion, and I had a lot of successful singles feuds and programs, whatever. But just to really have the stamp on you as being like the guy that the whole that represents the whole organization was truly special. And to have it in North Carolina with my family there in that fairy tale type moment was just amazing. And it was unfortunate, and I wish I could have had a long, prosperous reign and been a fighting champion. But even though I had it for those 2 or 3 days, it was totally worth it, and I wouldn't change a thing if I knew I was going to have that moment again and still had to relinquish the title a couple of days later. It was that special to me.
Well, you have the possibility of being able to have that moment again in Bethlehem this Tuesday live on Pop. Talk a little bit about the TNA move to Pop. Obviously, for whatever reason, people are going to debate it and dissect it forever. TNA and Destination America, they didn't really come together like Voltron the way that I think a lot of people hoped. This is a chance for TNA once again to have a new start, hopefully with a partner that's going to be wanting to get behind them and help build the brand. Talk a little bit about your excitement about seeing TNA heading off to Pop TV, having a live debut, and you being a big part of that mix.
I think whenever everyone had the best intentions when Impact Wrestling started with Destination America, and I really feel like between Destination America going through some changes in management and maybe thinking of a different direction, and I truly think they didn't really get wrestling like we hoped they got wrestling at first. Even it's one of those things I know there was an issue with Destination America even that they didn't want us to record stuff from, out of America to air on their television, like the UK tapings, which are some of the greatest TV, that Impact Wrestling does all year. They wanted everything to be like an American-based product, and I don't think they really understood the full scope of how professional wrestling works in many ways. And then, once that kind of broke down and, we ended up leaving and heading to Pop TV, from the interactions I've had with Pop TV and from the feedback I've gotten from, my superiors at Impact Wrestling and their dealings with Pop TV, I think these people have a much better grasp on what pro wrestling is and what we need from the station to be successful. And I really feel like we're going to get that much more of an opportunity. And in a lot of ways, this just works out better because more people are able to get this. This comes on a more basic cable package than Destination America does. It's in 30-plus million homes. So I think it's going to be a lot of positive things. Once again, our biggest challenge, I believe, is just going to be bringing all the viewers to find Pop TV so that they can, follow and watch Impact Wrestling. And I feel very confident with the creative direction. I know a little bit about what's going on going forward, and I think it's really good stuff. And I think there's going to be a lot of moments in there to do some television and some storytelling that isn't being done anywhere else and hasn't been done before. So I'm very excited about all those things.
Talk a little bit about, obviously you've been a big part of the TNA storylines for a while, but, we've heard that you've kind of been taking a little bit more of a backstage role and being a little bit more vocal in terms of the way things are going and expressing your opinion. Talk a little bit about the creative freedom you've gotten in the company and having the chance to kind of start to have your say a little bit more. And what's that freedom like versus what you would get traditionally when you worked for WWE?
It's been very, very good, and they have been very open. And it's just one of those things where I am really trying to, think about it from a trained eye as a professional wrestler, like what the story's going to look like. I'm trying to think about it from a casual fan's eye. I'm trying to think about it from a smart fan's eye. I'm trying to look at it from all different perspectives to really get the best total package I can, and then I'll give my ideas to them, and I'll go, this is how I think my character would play off of all this. And they've been so open, and they've been so willing to come to the talent who, is actually pretty responsible and knows what they're doing. They'll come to them and they'll ask for their suggestions, and the openness has been so good. And I really feel like that's missing in wrestling a lot. I mean, there are times I'll watch WWE programming, and sometimes I see guys saying things or doing things that just doesn't seem natural, and it doesn't seem comfortable for them because they're being told to say say certain words or act a certain way, and you can just tell they're uncomfortable. I've been there before. I recognize it. So that's one thing I think is really great about TNA, and that's one thing I think is amazing about their creative. And one person that I really have to take my hat off to and I have to mention in this interview is Shane Helms. He's been down there, and he's been an agent, and he's been very vocal in the creative meetings, and he's got a great wrestling mind. I mean, if you can make a comic book character come to life and get it over on television, you truly have a talent in this day and age. And, he was able to do that, and I think he understands a wide range of characters and personalities. So Shane's been very influential as well. So I think we've got a good team going, and there's a lot of guys who really are great at what they do. EC3 is, Eric Young is, and a lot of guys who will speak out and do what they can to make the product better. And it's not looked down upon. It's actually it's welcomed.
There, as we go into 2016, there is always a group of fans who are out there ready to complain about the negative when it comes to pro wrestling. And they're ready to say, it's going to fail. This company's going to die. This guy stinks. What's your thoughts on just the way the collaborative internet world has kind of changed wrestling? And do you think maybe we've got this whole generation of Stadler and Waldorf sitting in the balcony who have forgotten how to enjoy pro wrestling? Because to me, I've seen some people kind of kick around TNA, but if you were watching the product on a regular basis during the World Title Series, there were 2 or 3 really good matches on every show consistently. And to me, when you've got a consistently good product, that's all you should really be concerned about. It's amazing to me that we haven't seen more of a turnaround in some of the fan opinions online with TNA. So I wanted to get your take on that. And maybe there's just fans out there just they're not happy unless they're miserable. Like you've always been very vocal and very open and outreach. You've always had an outreach with fans going back to the days of MySpace, where you'd get heat for putting up MySpace blogs in WWF. So talk about just how the internet fan has kind of evolved over the last couple of years, and your thoughts on the way some of them act.
Well, I mean, the biggest thing with the internet, and especially with the way it relates to wrestling, is people have so much information at their fingertips now, and that is what makes. Someone last night had tweeted whenever I was promoting the TNA a little bit, and Raw was on. Someone said, the IWC killed wrestling. And no, that's an excuse that lazy promoters give or lazy performers give. We just have to be that much more smarter. And you also have to think about your surroundings, your settings, and the year 2016 as we go forward. I mean, the fans have an idea of things they read and things they know, but like they still don't know what's going on. When we go out there, we control the magic, and that's what's important. That's what's special. You have to put on your thinking cap. You have to be more creative than normal. And I think wrestling fans, it's almost like they'll have something they want, and then even when they get it, they'll complain about it again. I think that's just kind of the nature of really critical fans. You can never make them happy. I think that is unfortunately a trend in society in America nowadays. Just people are never happy. People are never satisfied with whatever they get. They always want more. They always want more. And wrestling fans are usually the worst about that. You know, sometimes there's fans that are super appreciative and super respectful, and I love those guys more than anything. But with the other people, I think it's very important with the internet how you play off of them or how you use them. Because even if they are going one direction and they're giving you a hard time, still we kind of control the direction that everything goes, and we can use, you know, what people think and what people want to think against them or either for them. And I think it's totally a different mindset as far as being a promoter or performer in 2016.
Let's talk about Jeff. Where do things stand with Jeff in terms of return to the ring at this point? There's been talk about him possibly needing another surgery.
Yes, Jeff. It's very strange. You know, apparently Jeff was injured a little more severely than thought whenever he first got hurt. Actually, the first doctor that did it missed something in there, some ligament damage he had, and then he's been to a couple specialists. And there's one person that thinks that, you know, he might be okay without surgery. There's one person that thinks he can have something done that'll be a couple weeks, and there's one person that thinks he might be gone for months. So he's still waiting and making his decision on what's going on. So he did a little more damage than just only breaking his leg. He did a little ligament damage when he was in there, but still the severity of that is yet to be determined, and that's about the most honest answer I can give you.
Do you think he's finally gonna calm down with some of the crazy physical stunts now that this has happened, or do you think he's always going to be, hey, let's get on that dirt bike and ride over the volcano I built in my house?
I certainly hope so. I couldn't imagine he wouldn't. I know he's been very regretful, and I know he feels bad towards TNA, and I know he felt terrible that, you know, we won the tag team titles, and we were really looking forward to having a nice run and really, you know, doing some stuff to continue to validate our legacy and do some, you know, have some great matches, and we had some great stuff planned. You know, I know he hated that, you know, he interrupted that moment for us. And then as time has gone on, because he's had to miss so much time, he's never been hurt before in his entire 23 years. So this is all new to him. So it's also a big mental head game, you know. And he's like, oh, well, I try and do this in the morning, I try and do that. And I was like, well, welcome to the last 10 years of my life. Like, you know, I've been hurt, and, you know, you learn to, like, you know, recuperate from these injuries and rehabilitate the injuries, and then you work around them. So I think he's going to have to change. I mean, it's as you get older and you get beat up in this game, you have to change, and you have to adapt and evolve to continue to survive.
You know, when WWE published the Hardy Boys autobiography, there was you talked about the bump card in there. It's the first time I had seen a wrestler publicly talk about the bump card. You know, as you get older and you're still working that main event style, how much do you worry about punching the holes in that bump card? Because you're still at a main event level position. Fans are still expecting a certain Matt Hardy. You know, how much does your mentality change as a performer now that you've gotten older and you feel, and obviously all the personal stuff you've gone through as well, good and bad over the years, you don't want to start to head back towards that part of your past either. So how much does all that change, you know, your mindset creatively as you're trying to put together matches and performances and storylines?
I mean, it just forces you to be a smarter worker. I mean, that's the bottom line. You have to be. I mean, there's times like when I'm going to the Bound for Glory main event, it's time for me to give a little extra, do more. You know, if I am working a house show, I'm still gonna work hard, but I'm gonna work smart. If I am working an independent shot somewhere, I'm still gonna work extremely smart. You know, and fortunately, I've been able to expand my game where my character has become more than just a Hardy boy who does hot spots. Like, I've tried to really expand my entertainment value a lot, like as a character and as a persona and just as an identity. And that's one thing. The more you get hurt in the business, the smarter you have to become to survive once again. And it's very strange. It's tough. And, you know, I think it was hard for me to accept as an athlete. They're like, hey, you can't do everything that you used to do. Like, you have to pick and choose your spots now. And there's a lot of bereavement about losing that athleticism as you get a little older. But, like, you know, looking back now, I just wish I could have been as intelligent and as smart as I am now, you know, 10 years ago or 15 years ago, just so I could have picked and chose what I was going to do and what big bump I was going to take or what big bump I wasn't going to take. You know, for instance, the leg drop off the cage was the moment where, you know, for 6-7 weeks after that, I couldn't walk correctly, you know, after I did the leg drop off the cage to edge. And that's when the leg drop stopped. And then I started coming off the ropes with the elbow, landing on my feet. And I did that for survival and to continue to have longevity. And so I can, you know, not only continue to wrestle, but so I can walk when I'm older. Just, you know, my hips and lower back just can't take the shock of dropping that leg every night, you know, because I did it night after night after night after night after night for so many years. You know, so it's just becoming smarter, man. And as crazy as it sounds to say, I feel like I'm a more complete performer as far as, you know, if you add up the character, the speaking, and the working together now, more than I've ever been, even though I'm not as athletic as I was when I was younger.
There was a time period where you guys, Hardy, Edge, Christian, were the car crash, Evel Knievel attraction of pro wrestling. Do you regret those bumps and that, like, you kind of needed to do it, especially early on, to make your names and build the brand? But do you feel like maybe you regret some of it because now you're getting older, now you have a son, now you want to have longevity in the business, and this crazy stuff that you did when you were younger is now going to force you to reel yourself in because physically you're so banged up? Do you regret some of the crazier stuff that you guys did when you were younger? And, you know, and what sort of advice do you give to the guys now who are in the X division, who do all these crazy springboard flips into the crowd and all this other wacky stuff that we see that's fun to watch, and I love it, and I love the athleticism of it. But there are guys who do things now, and I go, man, how is he going to get around in 10 years?
Right. You know, like you said, I think everyone is trying to establish a name for themselves. They're trying to stand out. They're trying to, you know, they're trying to earn a spot. They're trying to get eyeballs on them. They're trying to make money. So, yeah, you kind of have to go a little harder, and you have to dig in a little deeper, and you have to take some, you know, some crazy chances. And looking back, I don't think I would say I regret doing those things. Maybe as opposed to saying I regret doing them, I would just say maybe I wish I would have, you know, picked them and chose them a little more wisely as time went on. But, you know, like the TLC matches, you know, there's nothing about those things I regret. I mean, those made me who I am. They made all 6 of the guys who they are. You know, they made us, you know, as crazy as it sounds to say, saying it from a real-life perspective, they made us legendary in so many ways because that TLC match became such a huge deal in wrestling, and it's so amazing, you know, but we had to give that kind of, you know, we had to give that kind of effort to really establish them like that. And the only thing I tell young guys is, like, there are going to be times where you got to go out and you got to bust your butt and you got to take chances, but just learn to pick and choose and just realize, like, the big events, the events that count, are the ones you take these chances on.
So we got a lot of big TNA events coming up in the next couple of weeks. Next week, TNA is going to be taping a bunch of TV, including the live debut January 5th in Bethlehem. The UK tour is coming at the end of January, which will include the Lockdown pay-per-view, going to the UK for the first time. There's going to be a TNA One Night Only pay-per-view live Friday, January 8th. You know, exciting time for TNA. It feels like the brand's finally coming back to life in a major way again. So how excited are you to kind of jump back into all these things?
I'm very excited. I'm glad to have this fresh start again. I'm glad to be on Pop TV, and I think they have a real good, like I said, I think they have a good understanding of what wrestling needs to succeed on that station. And I'm very driven. Like, I'm excited to have, you know, my brother around. I'm excited to have Shane Helms around. There's a lot of great people, a lot of great minds, and like great talent, and it's such a good locker room there. I really feel like the people that were hindering TNA aren't around now. It's such a good, solid locker room. And I think if creative listens to the guys that have good ideas of what is going on and they continue to add to these stories, I think there's going to be some really special things happening in the future. And I'm truly excited for what I have coming forward. I can't wait to paint my masterpiece on the canvas of Impact Wrestling.
All right. Well, we look forward to seeing where things go with the Final Four in the World Title Series featuring EC3, Matt Hardy, Eric Young, and Bobby Lashley. And Matt, last question. You've wrestled all three of these gentlemen many times. Call the finals. What do you think it's going to be?
I have to say, from an Impact Wrestling perspective, obviously EC3 is my enemy. I would love for Bobby Lashley to beat his ass, and I would love to wrestle Bobby Lashley. I've never had the opportunity to go one-on-one and beat him before. I think that would be cool, but there's also a part of me that is going to be a little selfish, and I'm going to want to, defeat Eric Young, and then I'm going to want to have EC3 somehow creep into the finals. So if you have Matt Hardy and EC3 in the finals, and then Matt Hardy finally gets his win, and he gets his retribution over EC3 and regains the World Heavyweight title, so it's a fairy book ending, and that's what I got to go with.
All right. Well, we look forward to seeing what's going to happen this Tuesday on Pop. And for those of you who have Cablevision, the network is actually going to clear Cablevision within the next 2 weeks. It's going to be on channel 154. I think it starts the day. I think by the second week TNA's on, you'll be able to watch it in Cablevision. And of course, you can check your local listings. If you ever had the TV Guide channel, you get Pop TV. Look for it. You probably 95% of you probably get it and don't even realize it. Check it out. And TNA, of course, moving to Tuesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern. And for all things Matt Hardy, you can check out Matt Hardy's Twitter right under this interview and follow Matt online. And for all things TNA, you can check out ImpactWrestling.com. And for everybody here at PWinsider.com, I want to wish everybody a Happy New Year. And Matt, I want to thank you for jumping on, and I look forward to doing it again down the road. And thank you so much, and best of luck to you in the future.
You got it. Thank you, Mike. It is always a pleasure. You're in the vanguard of everyone out there that reports wrestling news, and I appreciate your integrity, and I have the highest respect for you. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate that, and we look forward to seeing what you and the TNA's band of merry men and women have prepared for us when it comes to when Impact Wrestling comes to Pop TV this Tuesday. And let's hope for a better year in 2016 for TNA overall. And we wish them nothing but the best. And until next time here on PWInsider, Elite.com, I'm Mike Johnson. Take care, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.